Today we're going to talk about 5 habits that are probably ruining your mental health, and they're things that you're probably doing on an everyday basis. I'm also going to share a concrete step to combat each one of them. As always, let me know what you think I missed, and also let me know at the end of this how many of them you do in the comments. Habit number 1 that is probably ruining your mental health. It's kind of a cluster of things that I think go together. Bed rotting, doom scrolling, and watching too much TV. So the way I define doom scrolling is kind of scrolling from one thing to another with no intention, usually for long periods of time. The reason why this isn't healthy for you is that it trains your brain to crave a very fast dopamine hit, which worsens attention in the long run and makes you addicted to consuming content. This is why a lot of people these days struggle to even focus for 3 minutes on a TikTok. And you'll even see them in the comments saying like, this is too long, you think I can pay attention to this? Because their brain is fried from just like scrolling through short form content. Too much TV is also not good for you. It's been associated with cognitive decline long term, less gray matter in the brain. And I think the reason for this is just it's very passive. It's not an activity that really makes you work for it, like reading or writing or even playing a video game. If you spend too much time with your brain offline, it means you're not using and strengthening crucial parts of your brain. And bed rotting is when you stay in bed and usually either doom scroll or binge watch TV. Unless it's a very intentional and time-limited form of self-care, it can be a sign of depression, or it might worsen depression. Because again, it's very inactive. It's bad for your attention span, cognitive functioning, and also emotional well-being. You become addicted to passively consuming content as a way of dealing with painful emotions or life stressors, when actually research shows that active coping is much healthier. Things like going for a walk, doing a workout, journaling, calling up a friend. So one concrete step to combat this first unhealthy habit is allot yourself a specific amount of time that you're allowed to do these things, to bed rot, to watch TV, or to doom scroll. And then set an alarm or set a restriction on your phone for like certain apps, and decide ahead of time what you're going to do when your time is up. And then once that time is up, once the alarm goes off, just get up and do that thing. Count back from 5 and just get up without thinking. On the topic of couch rotting, a few years ago, I was in a place where I felt stuck. I had illness anxiety and a constant state of dread. I would dissociate sometimes for no reason at all. I would wake up at 3 a.m. with just a sense of heaviness. But then I changed a few very critical things in my life. I stopped couch rotting in front of the TV. I finished grad school. I switched careers and I moved to Europe. I didn't like the direction my life had taken, so I changed it. And I know from many of your comments that it's not easy to start over. If you feel like you want more confidence, more freedom, more control, I want you to know that it is possible. And that's why I'm excited to share something that could help you take that first step. Triple 10, the sponsor of today's video, is an online tech education platform that offers beginner-friendly boot camps. Studying and finding a job is a really difficult process, but their coaches provide education and support throughout the whole journey. Triple 10 has one of the highest graduation and employment rates in the industry, and they also have a 100% money-back guarantee. Get a job or get 100% of your money back. Signing up for one of Triple 10's boot camps is a lot more affordable than actually going to university, taking out huge college loans, and they have flexible payment schedules as low as $200 a month. Moreover, their flexible schedules allow you to combine your education with other responsibilities like having an office job or parenting. So if you're feeling stuck in your career and you're looking for something to fulfill your confidence, I highly recommend you look into Triple 10. Learn a new job starting from $200 a month. Click the link in my description box or scan the QR code here for a free career consultation. Thank you so much to Triple 10, and now let's get back into habits that are probably ruining your mental health. Number 2, poor sleeping habits. Obviously, it doesn't feel good to chronically not get enough sleep. You become dysphoric, irritable, impulsive, tired, less empathic. It also becomes harder to regulate your emotions. Like you might, if you're tired, send a hasty text message or eat an entire tub of ice cream to deal with being sad. Long-term sleep deprivation also puts you at risk of cognitive decline. It's associated with worse memory, attention, decision-making, learning, creativity. Not to mention it's bad for you physically. It's been associated with cardiovascular disease, poor immunity, diabetes, premature aging. I have a theory that a lot of the reason behind postpartum issues for people is just the sleep deprivation. Depression, anxiety or OCD, psychosis, postpartum rage as they call it, like all of these can definitely be made worse by just The fact that you haven't slept through the night in however many months. Now, for some people, sleep issues are related to the first habit that I mentioned, to social media addiction. For others, sleep difficulties become kind of like a vicious circle because sleep is very behavioral in nature. Once you don't sleep well for a few nights, you learn to associate the setting in which you're not sleeping with not sleeping. That's why also when you're kind of on a roll, you keep going because you associate your bed with good sleep. And that's why often very behavioral interventions work really well for targeting insomnia. So a concrete step here is I'll put a link to a free sleep hygiene handout in the description of this video. And I want you to do everything on that handout for a week straight and see what happens. Because sometimes people will choose like, oh, I'll do 1 or 2 things on this handout. No, I want you to do everything on that handout for a week straight and come back and tell me if it helped. Habit number 3. Vices like vaping, weed, and getting drunk. What's wrong with these things? Obviously, addiction. It's very hard to kick. It can become a lifelong thing that you have to deal with. Obviously, there are negative physical health consequences to these things. But also, let's talk about how these things are bad for your mental health specifically. Starting with getting drunk. There's a term called anxiety hangover, which is when the day after you've been binge drinking, when you feel hungover, you start to feel like you did something wrong the day before, just like you're a bad person or, something bad is going to happen. And the reason for this is that the come down or the withdrawal effect of any drug is the exact opposite of its intoxication effects. So alcohol is a central nervous system depressor, meaning it sort of soothes your nervous system. It helps calm you down, helps get you sleepy even. So that means that the come down of alcohol is the exact opposite of that. It is a state of anxiety. Another drawback of being drunk is that it can lead to impulsivity while you're intoxicated, so you might do things that you later regret. What about vaping? Recent studies have come out showing that it's actually not as healthy compared to cigarettes as previously thought. Psychologically speaking, if you try to quit, it can result in anxiety, depression, irritability. I have known people who tried to quit it and were just awful to the people around them. Sometimes even people who were like keeping it a secret that they were still vaping from their partner and later disclosed to their partner, oh yeah, actually I was really snappy with you for those months because I had just quit vaping. And it also just disrupts your dopamine system, which is all about rewards. So again, it kind of creates this inability to find other things rewarding in life. What about getting high on weed? There's also been a recent study on the long-term health consequences of weed, which again, maybe not as physically healthy as previously thought. But psychologically speaking, weed has been associated with low motivation and hedonia, which is basically not being able to find pleasure in life, poorer memory, worse attention, slower processing speed, worse decision making. But the part that I find the most concerning about chronic weed users is the denial. Even on like some of these new articles coming out with like the negative effects of weed, the comment section is always filled with people being so defensive and saying, there's no way this is true because of my anecdotal experience. Weed is perfectly healthy. This is just big pharma propaganda. I think it really goes to show that like even if physical dependence isn't a concern with weed, emotional dependence absolutely is, because the way these people are acting to research showing that weed is not that healthy is the way that addicts react to being told that their addiction's bad for them. So a concrete step here is if you're dealing with dependence on any of these things, reach out for help. If you can afford it, find a therapist who specializes in addiction. Otherwise, talk to someone you trust about what other resources are available to you. This is not something that can just be fixed in a YouTube video. Habit number 4, self-isolating. I'm talking about like not replying to friends, flaking on them, not hanging out in real life. Sometimes this is a direct result of mental health issues like social anxiety, for example, but certainly it worsens or reinforces mental health issues. For example, if you are not reaching out to people because you're socially shy, not interacting with people is just going to sort of atrophy your social skills. So then when you do interact with people, you're not going to know what to do. Social supports are also a huge protective factor and they can help you cope with stressors. So if you are isolating yourself, you are going to be less equipped to deal with when life gets hard. Also, like, it just makes you an unreliable person. If you are that person that never responds to people, maybe you're the one isolating yourself today, but tomorrow you might not have a choice. You might be isolated because people have decided, you know what, you're not that good of a friend, or you're not there for me when I need it, so I'm not going to be there for you either. A concrete step to combat this is to reach out to someone you care about today and just ask them how they're doing. And habit number 5 is not prioritizing your physical health. I'm actually of the opinion that people have a right to not value health. If they don't value health, then no one's gonna mandate that you value health. But most people don't want to suffer emotionally. And because of the very strong link between our mind and body, poorer physical health does usually mean poorer emotional health will follow. It does usually mean that psychic suffering will follow. So for example, working out has been shown to do wonders for depression, anxiety, just generally boosting mood, increasing confidence and self-efficacy. Eating nutritionally dense whole foods also impacts your psychological health. For example, fatty fish are good for memory, for offsetting cognitive decline. Leafy greens are high in folate and magnesium, which can help with mood. Probiotics affect your gut microbiome, which is associated with the production of happy neurotransmitters. On the flip side, not moving your body or consuming nature's jewels means you're missing out on those benefits. And you're also likely replacing those healthy behaviors with unhealthy ones that will negatively affect you. So prioritizing your physical health more by eating nutritionally dense foods, working out, will also improve your mental health. A concrete step here. I want you to try to add 2 servings of fruits and vegetables to your day. The reason I want you to focus on adding rather than subtracting is that subtracting can give you kind of like a scarcity mindset where you feel like the next day you have to overcompensate for it. Whereas when you add something healthy into your diet, you don't have that same scarcity mindset, and also you have less room for the unhealthier habits. Now, all of what I'm talking about can kind of be summarized under the DBT handout PLEASE, the PLEASE skill, which is about kind of the foundations of emotion regulation. So I'll also put in the description of this video the handout for the DBT PLEASE skill. The acronym stands for treat physical illness, balanced eating, avoid mood-altering substances, balanced sleep, and exercise daily. So it covers kind of everything that we talked about except for the self-isolation. I hope that this video was helpful for any of you dealing with some of these unhealthy habits. I would love to know, if you feel comfortable sharing in the comments, how many of them do you do? How many of them do you struggle with? And I also hope that some of the resources and concrete steps that I offered will help you be both physically and emotionally healthier. Take care.